Story 1, cooking. I have been a professional chef for 48 years. Story 2, cleaning. It is the weirdest flex, I know, but I am always complimented on how well I keep my house. I have also done cleaning for friends and family, and they have been amazed. I am not completely sure what I do differently, but it is my little hidden talent. Story 3, video games. Most games I play, I reach the top 1% or better. I am pretty sure being an average player means you are better than 80% of the world. I just did the math, and my rank in Counter-Strike places me in the top 0.00039% of all humans on Earth. Story 4. Lots of things, probably. I have read that bench pressing 100 kilograms is more than 99% of people can do, which I am not sure I believe, but I could definitely believe it is in the top 20%. Story 5. Playing the classic 1998 karting game Lego Racers. I would confidently race St. Peter to enter the gates of heaven. Satan and Christ can both be playing. I do not care. I am the final boss of Lego Racers. Story 6. Making money, apparently. I am not rich by any means, but somehow my barely six-figure income is within the top 10% of individual income. This is surprising because I remember my dad telling me 30 years ago that $100,000 is not enough to stop worrying about money, and it is certainly not enough in 2025. This must mean that the top few percent of people are extremely rich and the vast majority of people are underpaid. Story 7, debugging. I am known for fixing some high-profile bugs in Minecraft. Story 8, baking, catching random animals that get into our country home, often with my bare hands, chopping wood, country girl activities. Story 9, somehow picking birthday cards is easy for me. I literally went and bought one for a relative's birthday just 10 minutes before the party started, and everyone agreed it was perfect. I genuinely do not know how I do it. Story 10, dealing with people. I can spend time with the chief executive officer or a prisoner and find something to connect with them on. I do not know why, it is just a thing. It is a gift that has worked out pretty well for a small-town college dropout. Story 11. Reading and interpreting dense legal or technical documents as a non-lawyer is one of the fringe benefits of a serious classical and philosophical education, even though my career trajectory moved away from academia a long time ago. Almost anything is easier to read than Kant or Hegel. Similarly, a thorough analysis of a single line from Horace's Odes can inspire 100 pages of speculation and introspection. I could eat an elephant if I could approach it line by line. Story 12. Understanding that I am living a better, safer, and more fulfilling life than 80% of people. This is largely due to being wealthier than 80% of the population, just like most of the commenters in this thread. Story 13. Scuba diving. Just to be clear, I am not very good at scuba diving, but considering most people do not do it at all, I am better than them at it. Story 14. Running very long distances is not actually a talent. Story 15. I can tell when someone is lying about having read the article they are commenting on just by the confidence level in their completely wrong take. Story 16. I do an impression of songs where I perform them as if played back at a slow speed, complete with unusual formants and lowered pitch. I am confident my accuracy surpasses that of most people. Story 17. Repairing wood canoes. I learned how as a teenager working at a summer camp from the experienced man who maintained all the canoes in good repair. Depending on the severity of the repair, it is a lot of work but very satisfying. Story 18, weirdly enough, I'm going to say physics. I have a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics degree, not in physics, but I had to take college-level physics. I'm thinking passing that puts me in the 80% mark. Story 19, typing. I type around 100 words per minute. I am probably in the top 20% in general trivia, but I am guessing. I am also better than 80% of people at Microsoft Excel because I am an accountant. Story 20. Apparently recovering from surgery. One time, I had the whole back of my skull removed to get a brain tumor out, and I was back at work in 2 weeks. Story 21. Drawing, but I am a trained professional, so it is nothing miraculous. Story 22. I am not skilled at guitar. However, I would bet that 80% of people do not play guitar at all, so I am probably better than them. Story 23. Driving a Zamboni with over 10 years of experience. I am precise and careful at that 9 miles per hour speed. Story 24. Was ranked top 12 in the nation for indoor volleyball. Trained at the Olympic Training Center. Story 25. Writing with the left hand. You've guessed right, I am left-handed. Want to know what I am worse at than 80% of people? Story 26. Managing road rage. I used to be very angry over the smallest driving issues, but now I try to remember that the other person is most likely just a normal and nice individual. They might have made a minor mistake, or maybe the mistake was mine. Instead of honking my horn and yelling, I simply raise my hand, smile, and nod. I behave as I would if I were not in the safety of my car. Story 27. I can do 25 pull-ups with good form, but I do not think that is really impressive nowadays. Story 28. Mental arithmetic. It surprises me when people use calculators for simple addition or calculating change. Story 29. Standardized test. I typically score high on intelligence tests, in the top 90 to 95 percentile. I don't think it reflects my intelligence very well. I am just good at taking the test. Story 30. Scrabble, especially when played quickly with a timer like speed chess, is challenging. For a while, I was in the top 10% of speed Scrabble players in the world. I am probably better at Scrabble in general than 80% of players. Story 31. Removing items from the high shelf without using a ladder. Story 32. Being aware of my surroundings, spatial awareness, geography, and sense of direction. Rarely being late to work, having common sense and knowledge. Story 33. I would say general athleticism, even now past my prime, but since I will not be landing any professional sports contracts, I wish I were better than 80% at writing books since that is my current life trajectory. Story 34. That is such a low bar to reach. I am better than 80% of people at anything I took at least one course on in university. Story 35. I speak better German than 80% of people because more than 80% of people do not speak any German at all. Story 36. C programming, pickleball, real-time operating system engineering, metal turning, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. Story 37. Foreseeing how a series of events between different personalities will unfold. Story 38. I can do something that fewer than 1,000 people on the entire planet can do, although it is very specialized and not particularly interesting. Story 39. Probably drawing. I have been drawing my entire life and went to school for it. I have received many opportunities to get paid for it as well. However, I struggle with severe imposter syndrome. Story 40. I am better than 99.9997% of people at being tall. Story 41. Replying to this post. Most people do not take the time to comment at all. Story 42. Singing opera. I have been doing music since I was 12 years old. I am not unkind without reason. Story 43. 80% of the people? I do not know 80% of the people. I do not have that kind of ego. Story 44. I am better than 99.9% of the world at picking up heavy things. Story 45. Writing with my left hand. To be fair, my handwriting is terrible. Story 46. Overthinking. This sounds like a joke, but it is not. Story 47. I'm usually around the top 1 to 5% in the world when I set lap times playing Forza Motorsport Rivals, so I guess I'm better than at least 95% of the people who play Forza Motorsport Rivals. Story 48. Being myself. Although it is possible that more than 20% of people could be better than me. Story 49. Fighting. But honestly, that is pretty easy. The vast majority of people are not skilled at physical conflict, so it takes very little to be better at it than 80% of people. Story 50. Finding the center of a thing, the philosophy, the point they are trying to make, etc. Story 51. Drawing, game design, geography, writing. All probabilistic guesses based on personal experience and responses people have to me doing these activities. Story 52. Tuning my cars in racing games. You are losing seconds due to bad setups. Story 53. I know more about the first United States Civil War than 80% of people. Story 54. Writing does not feel like work even though I get paid to do it. Story 55. Not to brag, but my credit score says, your score is higher than 94% of consumers with a TransUnion credit file. Story 56. Making up my mind. Where should we eat? Is never a question when I am around. Story 57. Waking up. I work the early shift. My alarm goes off at 4 a.m., but almost every day, even on weekends, I roll over, look at my phone, and see that it is between 3:15 and 3:25, so I have a good amount of time to lie in. Story 58. Natural rhythm. Learning the drums and other instruments came very naturally to me. Story 59. Makes gray sweatshirt. One red rectangle with white letters, Supreme. Boring. Makes purse. It is brown and has the Gucci symbol all over it in a lighter brown. Very boring. Story 60. I can identify all of the world's flags. I take the flag quiz every once in a while to stay sharp. Story 61. Geometry dash. I have completed 2 levels of the hardest difficulty. Story 62. I was the radio control professional amateur Nintendo Power Champion when the magazine ended, so I will always have that. Story 63. Sleeping, getting bored, napping, getting distracted, and watching films. Story 64. I don't know this for sure, but I want to say lucid dreaming. I assume I am up there because most people don't do it. It happens every time I dream, to the point that I know a dream is a dream and I just watch it play out if I don't feel like controlling it. However, I can take control anytime I want or wake myself up. Story 65. I swam in college for a Division I school. I was never anything special, but I am pretty sure that even well into my 30s, I am still a better swimmer than 99.9% of the world population. Story 66. Being the smartest man in the room and making the most foolish mistakes. Story 67. Seeing things that are small, also known as hypermetropia, has helped me a lot when it comes to verifying the authenticity of things I sell. Story 68. I am not even close to being good in Pokemon video game championships, but I am pretty sure that fewer than 20% of all people even know the rules. Story 69. Run fast, really fast. I have more confidence in my speed than in myself. Story 70. IQ tests. But seriously, I am better at picking my nose than most people. Nobody can pick my nose as well as I can. So far, at least. Story 71. If it is 80% of everyone, then guitar. I am not better than 80% of guitarists, though. Story 72. Having perfect pitch is probably better than 80%, around 99%. Story 73. I am deeply faithful, and this has brought me many problems in life. Story 74. Armpit farts. I am 50 now, but I have never lost this talent I learned the summer I was 12 years old. Story 75. Convincing women that they want to do what I want to do with them. Story 76. I have held 5 world records in racing games, including Forza, Trackmania Xbox version, and several tracks on Grand Theft Auto. I am also ranked in the top 100 on most songs for Fortnite Festival. I participate in tournaments and generally place around the top 1500 to 2000. I reached master rank as Zerg and Protoss in StarCraft 2. I also achieved a rank in Street Fighter 4 as Akuma, Ryu, and Evil Ryu. I unlocked the God Walking Amongst Mere Mortals title in Guild Wars 1. I can type about 140 words per minute. I have been playing video games since I could walk. I am naturally skilled at most video games. Before my town's local arcade closed, I spent every weekend there playing fighting games. Home consoles with online play were not available at the time, so that was the only way to compete against other real players. All useless skills, I suppose. Story 77. I can use my cupped hands to pop air into my mouth, and I use that to make a popping style song. Yankee Doodle is my go-to. Story 78. That is not a very high bar. Anyone should be able to name many things since there are numerous areas in which one can be good or bad. Story 79. If you put time into a video game, Odds are you are better than 80% of people at that video game just by the drastic differences between people who played said game and everyone else. Now, if you want to be better than 80% of people who play that game, you are going to have to get good. Story 80. I am a pilot. Less than 1% of the world population are pilots. Story 81. Staying depressed even after years of therapy and many medications. Message me if you want to try something to help you sleep but gain weight, lose weight but get hemorrhoids, get more motivation and agitation, feel less anxious during the day with accompanying night terrors, have higher libido but experience erectile dysfunction, have good erections but feel like you are in zombie mode, or anything else. I have solutions for all of these. Story 82. Shooting a basketball and playing pool. Determining wine characteristics. Managing and writing an analysis of political and public opinion projects. Story 83. Being myself. I know many people who adopt a different personality when they are around others. I am always just me. Story 84. Information technology engineering and management. I am not the best, but I am really good. Story 85. Running a nation on nation-states. I am not the best, but less than 80% of the world plays nation-states. Story 86. Ice hockey. 80% of people do not play at all, so the odds are in my favor. Story 87. I am almost unbeatable at a staring contest. I do not experience any irritation when keeping my eyes open and can easily do it for an hour if I really wanted. Story 88. Making jokes about deceased parents to make people uncomfortable. It is my trauma, and I enjoy the looks on people's faces when I tell the jokes. Story 89. Cycling long distances and exerting power during those rides. I am fast. Story 90. I make more money than like 80% of the world just because I live in the United States of America. Story 91. Staying in shape. I am 50 years old, and I am the same weight I was in high school. I do not really do much other than eat well. I guess it is genetics, as both of my parents, 76 years old mother and 80 years old father, are both in excellent shape and very healthy. Story 92. Playing Warhammer 40,000. For starters, I know how to play Warhammer 40,000. Story 93. Knowing how much 80% of anything is, at least in the United States. Story 94. That Match Madness minigame on Duolingo. I can consistently beat the hardest level without the time bonus. Story 95. Any shooting game I play. Currently in the top 15% in Marvel Rivals. I reached the top 6% in Valorant. I cannot remember exactly where I reached in Apex Legends, but it was high up as well. I have not played any Call of Duty game in a while, but it is a similar story there. Story 96. Dungeon mastering. Because more than 80% of people have never tried it. Story 97. Call of Duty, specifically Warzone. I was in the top 0.5% in wins and kills in the original Warzone and top 0.6% in resurgence modes. Probably nowhere near that anymore since I do not play as often, but I can still achieve the occasional 20+ kill game. Story 98. Being aware of the other people shopping around me in the grocery store. Story 99. Coming up with puns for every sentence spoken to me is a curse. Story 100. Remembering dates and birthdays. I have had friends test me on this multiple times. It is a autism thing. Story 101. Being myself. I think there is someone out there who is better at being me than I am, maybe. Story 102. The numbers would say golf, but all my friends beat me. Story 103. Trying every single day to be a better version of myself and a good person. Story 104. Aerospace engineering related to three-dimensional printing technology. Story 105. According to this app on my iPhone, I am a master of Sudoku. Story 106. Beatboxing is something I never wanted to pursue or try to make money from, but I learned how to do it quite well when I was a kid. Every once in a while, I like to surprise people by showing that I can still do it well in my 30s. Story 107. Games and obviously driving, but I am sure that everyone thinks that. Story 108. Minecraft player versus player, not compared to most people who actually do it. Story 109. HTML, jewelry, shoes, sewing, and cooking. Yes, I am a total expert. Story 110. Swimming. You do not have to be a great swimmer to be better than most people. I imagine most people who swam competitively in high school or elsewhere are better swimmers than 90% of people. Story 111. Video games are not the coolest thing, but they are appreciated in some circles, especially among my competitive friends. Story 112. Whistling. One of the best compliments I received was, "Oh, that's you. I thought someone was playing music." Story 113. I was the youngest person on Earth at one point. I have fallen a lot since then, though. Story 114. Riding motorcycles and bicycles. Vehicle maintenance and repair. Finding and stimulating the clitoris. Story 115. Probably Dance Dance Revolution unless we are only counting people who play Dance Dance Revolution. Story 116. Making large nervous dogs feel calm, and by large I mean anything in the 100+ pound category. It is a good skill to have in veterinary work. Story 117. Restaurant work. I have spent 10 years in this field, and while I know I am not the greatest in the world at it, I know I am good at it. Story 118. Reading people is part intuition, part experience, pattern recognition, and also involves a lot of anxiety. Story 119. Remembering simple directions, even to places we have driven to dozens of times. Story 120. Being completely average at everything I try. No matter how much I practice, I can never get past the skill ceiling of just being average. Story 121. Sleeping. I can close my eyes and wake up 8 to 9 hours later fully ready to go. Takes me 2 minutes to fall asleep. It has been like that for 45 years. Story 122. Filmmaking, specifically cinematography and editing, is not very useful as a job skill in small-town New York State, so I work at a manufacturing facility now. Story 123. Evidently, spending time alone during the pandemic made me realize that the world at large considers my lifestyle to be cruel and unusual punishment. Story 124. I am better at skipping rocks than probably 99.9% of the population, so there is that. Story 125. Starting one task, and by the end of the day, I have 10 other tasks I started but did not finish and cannot remember what the first one was. Story 126. Lots of things. Editing, guitar, dealing with difficult people, cooking, managing pets' medical issues, physics, mathematics, crossword puzzles, being kind. Story 127. I can make this loud tongue click that no one I have met seems to be able to replicate. It is kind of like cracking a whip. Story 128. Climbing ladders. I am 18 and going into my second year of university. I will have a degree in business economics and 2 internships by the age of 20. I have held several student organization presidency and vice president roles. Every time I see a ladder, I want to climb it metaphorically. Story 129. Listening without the urge to reply, just letting someone feel heard. Story 130. Driving, cooking, card games, income tax paperwork, finding bargains. Story 131. Against all people, most people probably have many skills where they rank in the top 20% just because of how numbers work out. Against people who consistently perform a skill I am also proficient in, I would probably say guitar, running, and maybe structured query language, which is a database query language for those who are not familiar. Story 132. Singing, playing guitar, keyboards, bass and drums, songwriting, production, woodworking. Maybe not better than 82% though. Story 133. I am in the top 0.1% in League of Legends on my server. I am also fairly confident that I am better than most people in mathematics, physics, and electronics, considering I am 85% done with my electronics engineering degree. Story 134. Finding drama where one exists and making it my full-time entertainment. Life hands me chaos. I turn it into a masterpiece. Story 135. Because of the entire world population, I doubt 70% have gaming consoles, and even a smaller fraction play sports video games. Story 136. I am better than 99.9% of the population at programming control 4 home automation systems to perform some of the most elaborate tasks imaginable. Story 137. That's not hard. Spelling. I was obsessed with it since I was a kid. I was a very young reader, to the point one elementary school teacher thought I was full of nonsense before the days of search engines. I still don't get it. I grew up, ended up getting a Bachelor of Arts in English Literature, and I can say with certainty that I was a better proofreader than most tools at the time for catching spelling errors, and I still am. As I get older, I try to focus on the spirit of the thing in anything social media related, rather than being perfect all the time, which is probably why I have just upset a lot of fellow English majors with my first line. A good rule of writing that I like, in places that don't require perfection, is that you get to break the rules for effect when you know them. Story 138. Sleeping during the day is easy for me. I can sleep in a noisy room, standing up, or even while taking notes. Sleeping at night, however, is a different story. Story 139. Handwriting, sign painting, or lettering in general. Also, braiding hair. Story 140. Typing. I am not sure what the average words per minute is because all sites I look at say different things, but I average 140. Story 141. I am clumsy and uncoordinated, but if you throw something at me, I can catch it with no problem. However, I guess my answer is changing the diaper of a squirming toddler. Story 142. Steering a power wheelchair, specifically with my non-dominant hand, and I only have a few months' practice. It was a very bumpy start, though. Sorry walls, door jams, and baseboards. Doorways are not wheelchair size, so it is an incredibly tight fit. Story 143. Music. Went to school and play professionally. It might be nuanced since I do not play every instrument. Every drummer is better than me. Story 144. Not just 80%, 99.999999% of people are playing Masterplan Tycoon fast. Story 145. Getting people to believe I am actually skilled at something. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.